How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame, and we are back with another FPL video. And today, as you can see to my right, left, your left, I don't know, which way this way is, you can see it's draft time, free hits, as well as I have a special wildcard one on here as well. So we're going to be taking a look at the 5 drafts I have prepared. Normally I do 3, but I thought that I would do my own main draft, like what I have now if I was going to free hit, as well as kind of like a wild card draft. So if you're somebody who used your wild card earlier on, I made a draft basically that would cover you for the free hit game week, as well as cover you for the double game week in game week 19 as well. If you haven't done so already, make sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. It greatly helps grow the channel, as well as turn those notification bells on so that you can get the content as soon as it is readily available. And also drop us a follow over on Twitter and Twitch. It's Pilot Flame 226 on those platforms. You can keep up to date on all the stuff that comes out, like our videos or any updates to any scheduling or anything like that over on Twitter, as well as when we go live over on Twitch, which we will be doing a deadline stream on Monday. That's 2 days from now at the time of recording. Today's the 9th of January. And we're going to be looking at basically maybe some last free hit changes for some people if you want to join us for that, as well as I may be potentially free hitting. I'm still undecided on that. I'm still trying to wait as long as possible to see which teams get knocked out of the FA Cup, because they will do the draw. I think it's the day before the deadline, so could be very interesting. So make sure to keep up to date on Twitter for those sorts of changes as well. Without further ado, let's get into the first draft. So the first draft that I have here for you is a 4-5-1 draft. Now, I kind of start off with it. It's a little bit different. I wanted to go through the more popular formations that I've been seeing. So I've gone with 3 formations: 4-5-1, 3-5-2, and 3-4-3. Those are the 3 that I've chosen. And then the other drafts that we have is basically my main free hit draft that I have currently, as well as a wild card draft. So we're starting off here with the 4-5-1. Has a very low squad value, actually, 101.3 million. And I've gone with, some pretty familiar picks in there. So you're going to see Wilson in a lot of drafts, Rashford, De Bruyne, Fernandez. And I've gone with basically a power 5 in midfield. So basically all of our funds are pretty much in there, with Raheem Sterling and Son as the 4th and 5th midfielders here. And basically what it does is it allows us triple City. It also gives us double United attack, which is exactly what you're looking for. So those 2 teams arguably have the best fixtures on paper versus the 2 teams that they are playing. Burnley, who should concede more than what they do based on the stats, but they have obviously Nick Pope in goal, who's quite good, and their defense is quite resilient. And then you have Brighton, who concede too many goals even though they shouldn't. So we get coverage for both of those as well. A lot of people are going to have De Bruyne. A lot of people are going to have a Man City defender, and we've gone in this draft to go with put a bit more oomph in the midfield. You can easily take out Wilson, put in the likes of a cheaper midfielder like Bukayo Saka from Arsenal, and put Kane up front. You could easily do that and go with a Spurs double up if you wanted to. I'm going to talk about the defense a little bit here. So we've gone, slightly cheaper on the Man City defender with John Stones, but I think he's been doing quite well. Racks up the bonus, scored a goal in the Carabao Cup, although it was a bit fluky, but again, was quite good. Double Arsenal defense, as well as in goal as well, with Leno, Holding, and Tierney. Tierney's been excellent so far, and I see him in a lot of drafts, and I think it's warranted. He could potentially get another hole versus Crystal Palace, who are the worst defense over the past 4 game weeks. Rob Holding, been doing quite well, got a 9 and 10 pointer in back-to-back weeks. And then lastly, Roman Saiss, someone who's been quite threatening from set pieces up against a Everton team that could be full strength, but still concede when they probably shouldn't do. And someone who's been as threatening as Roman Saiss has been from set pieces, he seems to be quite a bargain. And a lot of people are kind of overlooking the Everton versus Wolves fixture because they're kind of not sure what to predict. But Wolves are at home, and their XG conceded is way lower than what it is away from home. They're a lot more stable, and I think that Roman Saiss is definitely a part of that, as well as kind of like the momentum that they have when playing at home. Now, whether they can get the likes of Willy Bolly and Dendoncker, who provide a lot more stability in the team, that's yet to be determined. But Wolves have made it through in the FA Cup as well, so maybe that builds a little bit of momentum, although it was versus Crystal Palace. So they should be in good shape going into blank game week 18. And Roman Saiss, he's going to have a situation where Wolves win 1-0. He scores off a set piece. They keep a clean sheet and he gets 3 bonus points. That's probably going to happen at some point. We've been saying that about João Cancelo getting like a couple of assists, clean sheet, and some bonus points. That could potentially happen. There are a lot of defenders like that. Tierney got his last game week versus or 2 weeks games ago whenever he played West Brom, getting goal assist and bonus points with a clean sheet. So keep a lookout for him. Don't necessarily disregard that fixture. I think it could have some hidden gems in there potentially, but I've gone with Roman Saiz in this draft. So that's the 4-5-1 draft. Let's take a look at the 3-5-2 draft. So starting off here, we have we're covered pretty much for the bench, as it were, in the 3-5-2 draft. We're able to spread the money around just a little bit here and there. So we've got Lascelles and Yedlin and Brewster, who would be on our bench. Obviously, we have a non-playing goalkeeper just because it's the cheapest possible. And it allows us to basically, if somebody didn't play, so let's say Cancelo was rested for this game week for whatever reason, we would still have Lascelles or Yedlin, who has a very good fixture versus Sheffield United, and they're quite cheap in defense as well, and I'm certainly considering them for my own draft. Squad value slightly higher than the 4-5-1 with 101.8 million. And just as a note, with these drafts, I've gone with the price that you would have to buy the player at right now. So as an example, you can see that in my draft, De Bruyne is 11.6 million. I would have to buy him at 11.7. So that's what I've calculated him as in the squad value, as well as Bruno Fernandes. I bought him earlier on, so I could sell him at 11 million, even though he's 11.3. So this is a situation where I basically calculated what they would cost right now if you were to buy them straight from the, from a free transfer, if you didn't already have them in your team. So 3 defenders at the back: Tierney, Cancelo, Diaz. Doesn't really get much better than that. De Gea in goal as well. United, we know that De Gea is almost certainly going to play versus Burnley, and he's been doing that in the league, with very few exceptions. Obviously, we have Dean Henderson playing against his old club. That was kind of like a niche thing. Like Igalo supposedly is going to start versus Watford in the FA Cup game today for United. So there's some niche things like that, but I'm pretty sure De Gea is going to, go in there, and I think it's just a reason we'll just put a little bit extra money in him. I'm pretty sure United should keep a clean sheet, but if they don't, then it's not the end of the world. Maybe De Gea makes some saves and gets a couple extra points than the likes of Wan-Bissaka or Maguire would get when they just concede a goal. Then in midfield, we got 4 basically premium-ish midfielders and Bukayo Saka. So we have Rashford, Fernandes, Son, and De Bruyne. And then up front, we've gone with Wilson and Lacazette. Now, Lacazette's somebody who's, I believe, got 3 and 3. He's quite cheap in terms of what his value is for a single game week. He's been doing quite well, linking up the play. And with Saka out on the right-hand side, they can put Martinelli out on the left, with Lacazette kind of up front and kind of dropping into holes and picking players out, with Smith Rowe kind of playing the number 10 role and kind of helping with Lacazette. Martinelli could also, be swapped out for the likes of Aubameyang or whoever that Arteta may choose. And I think that Lacazette's been doing quite well in that role. I have been a harsh critic of him, but over the last few games, he has played quite well. Me personally, I'm not too big on Arsenal, so in my own draft, I don't necessarily have a significant number of Arsenal players, but I can definitely see the merits, and the stats definitely show that he's right up there when it comes to basically goal involvement for Arsenal over the last 3 games. And obviously Wilson returns as well, being a very cheap forward, and would be the only Newcastle player in our starting lineup. So you would play De Gea, Tierney, Cancelo, Diaz, Rashford, De Bruyne, Fernandes, Son, Saka, and then Lacazette and Wilson up front. And those would be your 3-5-2. And then you would just organize Lascelles, Yedlin, and Brewster on your bench as needed. But let's take a look at now at the 3-4-3 draft that I have drawn up for you. So this is the 3-4-3 draft that we have set up here. Slightly less, so just 0.1 less at 101.7 million than the 3-5-2. I'm not too big of a fan of this draft overall, personally. I think that the forwards are pretty bad in this game week overall. You have Wilson, you have Kane. And then apart from that, you don't really have anyone that you're kind of really happy about. Maybe Lacazette, but then you're spending quite a bit of money and you have to take away from the midfield. So you pretty much only really want 2, maybe 1. So you're looking at like Wilson and Kane, Wilson and Lacazette, Kane and Lacazette. But again, that's quite a big investment there. So I'm not too big of a fan of having the 3 forwards in this game week. That being said, on paper, this one looks not too bad. So we have Bernd Leno in goal, with Tierney for double Arsenal defense, and pairing him with the 3rd Arsenal player being Saka as well. In midfield, we have 3 premiums, or as close to premium as you can get, with Bruno Fernandes, De Bruyne, and Rashford in there. In the back line, we would have to play a cheaper defender to make up for the fact that we would have Kane. So we've gone with the two Newcastle defenders in Lascelles and Yedlin. And they're just kind of covered for each other. We would play Yedlin to start. And then Lascelles would be kind of a backup. He is going to come straight back in the team. And I believe he's starting today versus Arsenal in the FA Cup as well. So that'll be a little bit of coverage there. Mitchell's also on the bench as well for a little bit of cover. And then we would play... we could choose to play Saka on the bench, or we could choose to play him over one of the forwards, which is why it's a bit weird. So like the cheaper midfielders, like Saka, like Smith Rowe, you kind of want to play them over the likes of one of your forwards. But that being said, you could still potentially work some things out, and that's why it's better to kind of pump all your money into midfield, get 5 across in midfield on the free hit, so you can see the problems here. But I've gone with the I would say let's hypothetically say that Saka is a first sub. Our forward line would be Kane, Wilson, and I have Chris Wood in there. This could also be Ollie Watkins. And I think Chris Wood could potentially score versus United. He is a cheaper forward, and United have conceded 2 goals effectively off set pieces versus Man City alone in the Carabao Cup. And their zonal marking isn't very good versus teams who are very organized on set pieces and are very good at attacking set pieces, which Burnley definitely are. So there are merits to definitely go for that. Jack Grealish coming in there as a cheaper midfield option. What you could do is you could really downgrade Saka to just basically a non-playing midfielder, and you could potentially bump up Grealish all the way up to maybe Son if you have enough funds to do it elsewhere. And then really go with the 3-4-3 formation. But that's kind of what I found is it's kind of hard to really stretch that money, at least with my team value currently. And you would have to basically downgrade Kane if you wanted to that, really bump up Grealish, and then you just have money kind of floating around, which is what I found with the 3-4-3 draft. So I'm not personally a big fan, but I thought I would draw one up. Has good bench coverage as well, pretty much all the way through. And yeah, that's the 3-4-3 draft. Now let's take a look at one of the bonus drafts that I've done here, which is the wildcard draft. So this is a draft that is basically designed to not only field 11 players in the blank game week 18, but also keeps you covered for if you still want a bench boost in game week 19. Now, coming in at the most expensive draft yet at 102.2 million is kind of the hybrid of the wildcard draft that we have here, which will cover you for not only the blank game week, it will also cover you for the double game week if you choose to bench boost. Now, me personally, my team value is a little bit on the lower side than most people's. I think it's around just around 103 million with certain value in certain players, which I wouldn't want to sell, like Bruno Fernandes as an example. I think we can sell him for an extra 0.3 million more. So if I were to sell him right now, I would have to buy him back for 0.3 more at 11.3. De Bruyne we have 0.1 on. Bamford we have 0.3 on as well. So there's a lot of different players that we do have a lot of value tied up in, but not could necessarily use that value to go ahead and buy other players effectively. But let's look at the team here. So be Martinez in goal with Johnston as his backup. Just makes sense. Both goalkeepers play in double game week 19, as well as Martinez has good fixtures after that run as well, and they're both bench boostable because they have 2 fixtures and are going to play for their respective teams. For our back line here, we've gone with Kurt Zuma. If you have a little bit extra cash, you can spread it all the way up to Ben Chilwell, who's currently at 6-1. He might go down in price potentially before the game week starts, so that would be only 0.2 more. Wan-Bissaka's in there, 5.3 million. Cancelo and Stones. I bought Cancelo when he was 5.7, I want to say, which is currently 5.8, but I've counted that into the squad value. Kufal is in there as well. So all of those defenders have double game weeks, and you would just play Martinez in goal, and then you would play Wan-Bissaka, Cancelo, and Stones as your 3 defenders. In midfield, we would play 4 in midfield. We would play Rashford, we'd play De Bruyne, we'd play Fernandes, and we'd play Grealish. Pretty straightforward there. The only kind of issue that we have is that if Grealish were to get a yellow card, I believe it's in the next 2 games. So I want to say it's the free hit week, so the basically blank game week 18, and the first game in double game week 19. I could be wrong on that, and it might be 1 game after that as well. So if he gets a yellow card in one of those, because he's on 4 at the moment, he would be suspended for a game. But I think 3 out of his 4 yellow cards have come from him just mouthing off to the referee. So if he just keeps his mouth shut, he should be okay. So it's not that much of a worry. And then obviously we would bench. So Johnston would be on our bench. Kufal would be on our bench. Zuma would be on our bench. And Suchek would be on our bench. So then we'd have Watkins, who has a double game week, but also plays in the blank game week as well. And then we play Lacazette up front as well, alongside Watkins, and Bamford would also be one of the players that we wouldn't play. So we could field 10 players. You can get close. You can swap some player. You can like kind of do some like, kind of swapping around if you have slightly more team value, and you can look to maybe get, you can maybe bring in Saka instead of Suchek for the game week, and then do that one swap from Saka to Suchek or Saka to Rafinha. That could be a transfer that you would make if you really wanted 11 players. But the reason I've gone with 10 here is because if you want to get Salah back in, you can get Lacazette out for a cheap forward like Antonio, who has a double game week. Obviously, Sebastian Haller has been sold to the likes of Ajax. So whether they're going to actually bring in another forward or they're just going to stick with just Antonio, we'll have to see going forward. So you drop him down to a cheap forward like Antonio. Me personally, I would have to go all the way down to Rodrigo. And it's perfect money if I wanted to get out Rashford and then put Salah in his place and buy him back for 12.6 million. I think he is currently. He could potentially go down to 12.5. If he hasn't done so already. I haven't checked recently, but that's basically what you can go for, and that would be for a hit as well. So, and then if you wanted to just have Saka in your team, and he's just somebody, he plays against Newcastle, not the end of the world. You could potentially go for that. In terms of just having just one single game. So you have 14 out of 15 basically double game week players for them. So I think overall it's a very balanced team. It's something that you could potentially change up and keep relatively straightforward in terms of the picks that you make. Double city defense makes it pretty straightforward. De Bruyne is going to be in there. Fernandes is going to be in there, and then it's just a matter of how you build it around the rest of it. So for my team currently, I only have 7 double game week players, but I have De Bruyne in, I have Fernandes in, I have Cancelo and Diaz actually in my lineup currently. And then for the rest of it, you're kind of looking at just other players to build around it. So like the Rashfords, the Sons, the Grealishes, these sorts of players, which are they potentially going to get some more points? Yeah, they could do. But the main one is like Fernandes, De Bruyne, and then a City defender. Those are like the 3 mainstays, I would say, in pretty much everyone's free hit draft, as well as everyone's current team for the most part. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. So that's the wildcard draft. You can get 10 players. Like I said, you can get a 11th player in there if you really wanted to, but you probably have to take a hit to potentially transfer them out. But let's take a look at what my main free hit draft would be if I were to use the free hit in blank game week 18. So this is it. This is my main free hit draft. It is at 102.2 million in squad value, and this is also assuming at the time of if I were to buy the players right then and there. Obviously, I'm able to do this draft because I have certain value in certain players, but this is the squad value that you would be shown if you were to buy all of these players fresh off the market. So I've gone with Darlow in goal. I think he has a very good chance of getting a clean sheet, and if I had 0.1 million extra, I would change Lascelles to Yedlin, which I could do if I wanted to take out Son and go with the likes of Rashford, who's 0.2 million lower. So that would give me a little bit of extra cushion there, and I would be fine there. And I would need an extra 0.1 million to potentially upgrade Davis to Brewster if I wanted a more assured like sub, as it were. Because as it stands with this lineup, Mitchell's not guaranteed to play. Douglas isn't going to play because he's on loan, and Davis might not play either. So that would be just assuring up the bench. But in defense, Cancelo and Diaz, already have them currently in my team, with a Newcastle defender doubling up with Darlow. I think it's a great option, be it versus Sheffield United and Brighton, 2 teams that don't score very often. In midfield, I would have gone with a power 5 midfield, so Kevin De Bruyne, Bruno Fernandes, going to be a lot of teams. Son, I think, is going to be, quite good. I think that Aston Villa and Spurs, if whoever's going to score, it's probably going to be Son, Grealish, or Kane. It's going to be one of those three in there, and I think that those are going to be, especially with Ross Barkley rumored to be coming back for this game, assuming the game would go through. Then it would be, a situation where we would basically have that game pretty much covered for anyone that would score, barring any like weird set pieces like Konsa or Mings or Dyer or something like that scoring off a set piece. And a lot of people that I see as a fifth midfielder, they're going with Saka. I've gone with Zaha here. I think that Zaha is done and has done in previous years quite well versus Arsenal. Obviously been rumored to Arsenal many times, potentially as a transfer there. And I think that Zaha is somebody who is easily riled up, but can also rile up other players on the enemy team. And I think Arsenal's team in the past has been easily flustered. And I think Zaha's the type of player who can definitely, get them flustered. And then he can go on to score. I think Crystal Palace, now that they're out of the FA Cup because they lost to Wolves 1-0, I think that they're going to be focusing mainly on the league, staying in the league. And, Zaha is the type of player that when he's running at players is super, super scary. And with Arsenal having the likes of Tierney, having the likes of Bellerin flying forward, he's basically a kryptonite to how they want to play. They want to get up the pitch. They want to be able to swing the ball in. They want to be driving into the defense. If he gets the ball on the break, there's going to be no, like Rob Holding, David Luiz, Gabriel even, whoever they have back there is going to be no match for Zaha running in one-on-one. So I think he could be quite good versus Arsenal. And that's why I've gone with no Arsenal players in my team at all. Because I could easily put Leno in goal. No problem. I could have easily swapped out one of the Man City defenders for Tierney if I wanted to. But I've gone with Zaha because I think that Crystal Palace can do quite well versus Arsenal. Because the last three games, they were up against a poor Chelsea side, West Brom, and Brighton, who are two teams that potentially could be relegated. So I think the numbers might be overinflated in a sense based on the opposition that they face. And then up front, Wilson and Kane. I think Kane's going to be a big part of how Spurs want to play. If Son gets a goal on the break, it's probably going to be Kane who assists it, and Wilson is probably going to be the one that scores versus Sheffield United because he's scored, I think, over like 50% of Newcastle's goals when he's been basically involved on the pitch. So yeah, pretty straightforward. So the team that we run out there, we run Darlow in goal. We would have Diaz, Cancelo, and Lascelles. We would run 5 across in midfield with Zaha, De Bruyne, Fernandes, Son, and Grealish. And then we'd have Wilson and Kane up front. So we have 3-5-2 formation. And then we would have probably like Mitchell first sub, or Davis first sub, Mitchell second sub, then Douglas or something like that. But yeah, that's my current main draft. I'm still tinkering around with it, potentially all the way up until the deadline. I might not necessarily free hit. I might just run, like I said, with the 7 players that I currently have. But yeah, that's my current free hit draft, and we'll be able to see if I go with that free hit if you tune in with us for the deadline stream on Monday at 7 p.m. EST over on Twitch. And that's going to do it for the Blank Game Week edition of the drafts for both free hits and wild cards. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like on it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new. It greatly helps out the channel, as well as turn those notification bells on so that you can get the content as soon as it is readily available. And as mentioned before, give us a follow over on Twitter and Twitch. The links are in the description. It's PilotFlame226 on all platforms. Twitter will be doing any updates, so if I were to activate my free hit, I would probably announce that on Twitter and post a screenshot of the team that I currently have or am working with, as well as any new video releases or anything like that, or any changes to streaming schedules, which we will be doing a stream on Monday. That's going to be on the 11th of January at 7 p.m. EST, and that's going to be for the deadline for Game Week 18. So hopefully nothing else has changed since then. Hopefully we know all of the teams that have made it through to the FA Cup 4th round. I think they do the 4th and 5th round draws for the FA Cup on Monday, I believe. So that'll be interesting to see who gets picked, and we can kind of predict and see who's going to play who going into those rounds, and potentially see who may be in the blank game week this is tentative, but I think it's game week 29 with the double game week being in 26. So let's keep an eye out for that. Thanks for watching, and until the next one, take care.